Some of the biggest bands in the world don't have labels. Like Radiohead isn't on a label.
Right.
You know?
Right.
They're their own industry, and they've done it the right way, and they don't have to like super promote themselves. They just, oh hey guys, by the way, we're releasing an album tomorrow, you know, and then the whole world wants to see it. Or, you know, we're releasing an album, but it's free, pay what you want. You know,
Yeah.
I wish it could be more like that for everyone, but
Right. Here's the rules. Don't get married, don't get a dog, don't buy a car, and live on ramen noodles, and you'll make it. Because that's what it is. It's a huge sacrifice to do what you guys do.
it is a huge sacrifice, and you know, like, I don't know, we have 2 dogs, so I understand because that's definitely it's definitely been something on my mind. But at the same time, I'm fortunate enough that my mom, you know, the second that we do quit our jobs and take off on the road, my mom's going to take my dogs. We're going to put everything that we have in a storage building, and we're just going to go.
Right, and that's the only way to do it.
I mean, to me, it's totally worth the sacrifice, because now, yeah, I have a job. I can pay my rent. You know, I have a nice apartment, and I'm comfortable in my life, but at the same time, I would so much rather just be dirt poor and dirty and living out of a van just so that I could travel and play shows every night.
Isn't that kind of the gypsy in our blood, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I love traveling anyways, and I lived in Michigan for 6 years, and it was from Texas to Michigan, and I had only driven from here to there, and that was like I didn't stop anywhere in the middle, so I knew Texas and I knew Michigan, and that was it. And then getting in this band, I've been to so many different states and so many amazing places and met so many cool people that it's just, I mean, our first tour that me and Mike did with Surrounded by Monsters was with I Wrestled the Bear Once,
Mm-hmm.
and The Color of Violence. So that was my first taste of it, and it totally sold me. It was, and I probably got a little bit spoiled on it, actually, because it wasn't just a tiny little, you know, do-it-yourself tour
Mm-hmm.
with Surrounded by Monsters. I Wrestled the Bear Once took us out, and that was my first taste of it. So, you know, bigger shows, awesome crowds.
Mm-hmm.
It made up my mind right then. I've been in bands before in Michigan. I was in a band for 3 years, but we never toured. We just played local shows. We were young, and
Mm-hmm.
so when I moved back to Texas, I kind of thought that part of my life was over, and that I wouldn't play music anymore, even though it was always, you know, the biggest thing I wanted to do. It just kind of seemed like a far-fetched
Right.
kind of fantasy of mine. And then, you know, getting into Surrounded by Monsters and going in and actually listening to actually really listening to the kind of music these people were writing, and just how weird it was, and the fact that there's no choruses, and it's just like, oh, we're going to throw a jazz part here, oh, we're going to throw a reggae part here. I loved it, and it was just so weird and so different, and it was something that I was really, really proud to be involved in. And then, you know, after that first tour, just getting a little taste of the road for my first time, I just buckled down and, you know, tried to give it 100%, and that's where we've been. I mean, that was over 2 years ago that we did that tour, and it's just been just straightforward ever since then, you know. And even with the Asian Mike leaving, you know, that it was hard, you know, trying to fill his spot, but you know, then Joe came in, and he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met a bass player like him in my life.
Yeah, it has to be hard because your guys' music is so not straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was pretty funny because the first day that he came to practice I mean, he listened to the EP and stuff like that, but to actually kind of come and see the parts that he was going to have to be playing, after practice we stepped outside, and I just walked up to him and I was like, so what do you think? And he was like, it's insane and it's genius and I don't understand it at all. And then he really buckled down and he nailed it. And then the new stuff that we've written, he just completely jumped on board. And he's been in some bands and he's done some pretty big stuff, but this is definitely a different style than anything that he's ever played.
Mm-hmm.
Just completely just absorbed right into it.
That's great. So tell me about your setup. What are you using for keyboards?
Well, I run Reason 4.0 through a laptop into a MIDI controller.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm transitioning right now into a Roland Juno DI.
Ooh.
I just got that, and it's a little overwhelming. I'm trying to figure it all out. I've played with it at a few practices, and I'm trying to completely move over to that keyboard because playing through Reason is awesome, and it's really easy for me because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've been on a couple tours where my computer's crashed, and if my computer crashes, I don't have an instrument.
Right.
Just the possibility of us maybe getting a little bit bigger, it's just not a risk I'm willing to take. So I decided to just invest in a nicer keyboard that had everything already built in, so that wouldn't be an option.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to talk about for me personally, because like I told you, I'm a keyboard player myself. And a lot of people in the genre, I work primarily in an industrial music genre. That's music that I write, the friends that I know, that's kind of my bag. And more are switching over to the Ableton Live with MIDI and a computer. And it's interesting to hear someone else saying, yeah, I'm getting away from that and going back towards, because I'm primarily all hard synths. I don't trust computers, quite honestly. But I use them for writing, but I don't use them for programming or what I play with my synths. I do it all from my hard synths. So I like the idea that you're going towards something that's not so computer usable.
Well, I mean, the reason is when I joined the band, they had a keyboardist, but he was a temporary keyboardist, and he didn't really have very many parts. He just had a couple parts, and from what I was told, it wasn't something that he wanted to really pursue, or it was just kind of a temporary thing. So when I came in, that's just the setup that they had already. And even though there was only a couple parts, I thought it was pretty cool because Reason has so many different sound banks on it and stuff like that, and it just, you could put all of your songs in their own files and then pull them up, and you have all of your sounds already laid out for you and stuff like that. So,
right, I use Reason too.
Yeah, it was easy. It was easier for me coming into a band that was this technical and this weird. To just stick with what they had, even though I added a whole lot of parts from what was already written. It was just easier. And at the time when I joined the band, I was working at a tattoo shop, and I couldn't have afforded an $800 keyboard anyways.
Yeah, I hear you there.
That's what tax returns are for, though.
Yeah, tax returns are for buying new gear and paying off credit cards.
Yeah.
So tell me, are you guys open to like an idea of remixing an EP? Are you thinking about doing that? Have you guys talked about that at all? I know that I Wrestled a Bear once just they reissued their latest album with a remix EP. Is that something that you guys are interested in doing too?
No. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I was actually just joking about that last night because I just recently found that guy Skrillex who does the remixes with the dubstep and stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like it, but at the same time, we always get compared to I Wrestled a Bear Once so much that it just, I wouldn't want to step on anyone's toes, or, I wouldn't want to come off
like you're trying to be them part two.
Right, because we do get that sometimes, even though I don't really think that we sound like them. Some people do. I mean, there's they're really good friends of ours, and there are some similarities in our styles. Because a couple of the guys in the band have been friends with them for 6 years before I Wrestled a Bear Once even started.
Right.
So we don't take it in any way as an insult when we get compared. We just, there's already. It seems like the fact that there's a girl in this band and a girl in that band. Plus, people think that we look just alike all the time, and we always get confused for each other. And I also feel like Surrounded by Monsters, our new stuff that we're writing is in such a completely different direction, and I know that they're going in more of a type of dubsteppy direction, and they have some really cool stuff coming out on their new album, and I just feel like, especially at this point, we're kind of branching away from similar styles, so I just...
Right. I think there's similarities. I think visually there's similarities because, especially with the color palette, I thought the color palettes were the same in the videos, but that's kind of a visual thing for me. But I don't think you sound the same. I think you guys are far more heavy than they are and a lot less reliant on electronics. And I think that's what separates you. But with that being said, I definitely see the similarities to that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that...
Well, they are in the same genre. I mean, you know, I think that we could share fans easily.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I mean, I think that they're extremely talented.
Yeah.
And they're really good friends of ours. It's just like I also want us to be known as Surrounded by Monsters for what we do, and not like I don't want us to be known as a rip-off band or
right
following coattails or anything like that, because I feel like we do have our own thing, and I feel like some of the stuff we do is completely different than what anybody does, and it just seems like bands nowadays, especially bands that are big, they just all sound so similar to me.
You get the same stupid guitar tone on every song on the radio right now.
It's very chuggy and very breakdowny the whole way through, and and honestly, I feel like that's one of the reasons why maybe we haven't made it yet, because we you know, it's hard to follow. It's, you know, if you want to come and you want to dance at our shows, it's hard to really find the part where you have a chance, because we have a lot of things that we call fake downs, where you think a big breakdown's about to come, and it turns into a lovely jazz part.
Yeah, I was actually watching some live video of you guys on YouTube today to kind of refresh myself and learn a little bit more about the band. And I kept, bobbing my head along to the music, and then thought the breakdown was coming and it'd be something completely out of left field. And I was like, yeah, that's cool.
We got fake downed.
Yeah, I like that. Surrounded by Monsters, the video is out. There's definitely some imagery of like horror films and stuff like that. Are you guys inspired by horror films? Is that something that feeds into what you guys do?
Well, I can't speak for the rest of the band, but definitely for me. I love that stuff. I collect old horror movie stuff, and it's pretty funny actually, because Justin Beasley, he did our video, and he's absolutely amazing. He did all of I Wrestle the Bear Monsters videos, so I think that's probably why the colors and stuff are similar, because that's just his style that he does. But I called him and kind of told him, like, hey, dude, we got Dr. Fuck, we have that ready to go, and we're ready to do a video, and, we will drive to North Carolina as soon as you're ready. And we kind of started talking about it, and he was like, well, do you have any ideas? And I was like, well, we definitely want to do something weird. We don't want the whole video to be like straight comedy,
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, I did have this idea that I've been wanting to do for like 6 months, but no band will want to do it. And he said, I want to do a like little monster.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, that's so perfect. And he was like, yeah, we could pull someone under the bed and take them down to this like monster world, and just like, in the movie. And I just like fell in love with the idea. And it was about 2 months of me collaborating with him, just back and forth, ideas that I would get from the guys, and then he would tell me ideas that he had, and and then we were all going to be monsters, and that turned out that it was going to be a little over budget, and then it came to be like, well, how about Dr. Fuck is actually, a character? We'll make Dr. Fuck an actual character, and then like, oh, okay, that's a great idea, and then it just all kind of came together, and then Joe, our bass player, stepped forward, and he was like, well, I'll do it, and we're all like, yeah, okay, well, we didn't know how it was going to come out, and then when he actually got the costume on, he went insane, and he totally nailed it, and I'm so glad that he did it, and I wouldn't want anyone else to do it, because he did amazing at it, and I think he actually probably lost his mind a little bit, because it was, by the time we got to that part, we had been recording, for probably 16 hours already, and it was about 10 degrees in there with no heater, and so it was freezing cold, and everyone was exhausted and tired. We had already done the song probably 30 times in a row.
Yeah.